Okay, yesterday we went through Spanish settlement, independence, the people and culture of Venezuela, and we got started on what it's like today there. And we said a lot of people, most people farm and ranch, while others can still make money with the oil fields. Okay, so where in Venezuela can you find probably quite a bit of oil? What area is really rich in oil? Jayden?
I don't remember the name of the lake.
Yeah, lake. You want to open your book too?
Lake Canema. No, it's in the Canema National Park.
Maracaibo.
Oh, okay.
You're on the right track. Lake Maracaibo, and that lake is very rich in oil, and you can see here the black little symbols. Those are oil reserves, and also a bunch of oil here. So the northern part, but mostly Lake Maracaibo is pretty big in that also. So that's where you can find a lot of oil. You've got oil fields, you've got oil pipelines. All right, so those are different places you can find a lot of the oil. And we'll talk a little bit more about how oil is distributed, the money from the oil is distributed later in government. This country is part of an organization with oil, and what is the name of this organization that they are involved in? Anyone know the name of the organization that has to do with exporting oil to other countries? Alexis? Yeah, OPEC. And OPEC stands for Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. All right. People that are, or countries that are members of this organization, what they're trying to do is control the world's production of oil. They want to control the production of oil, and they want to keep the prices of oil high or low. What do you think? If they're controlling it, what? They want to keep the prices high. So they'll do everything they can to keep it high. If it can be lowered, they don't want to lower it. They want to do everything they can to keep the prices high. So they're trying to control the world's production of oil to make themselves more wealthy.
It sounds like some sort of like Illuminati type thing going on there.
Do you think we like it?
No, America doesn't export oil though. So.
No, but
I know. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. At least Americans
but
like.
Right. But we do have to have it. We need it, and so they try to keep the prices high. That affects us tremendously, and we don't agree with that. So, and then you could go into many debates about where you could get oil elsewhere.
Is that like a? Is it kind of like a treaty between nations, or is it a?
Well, it's an organization, so not necessarily a treaty, but they all work together. Those that are members of that organization. And oil production is a competitive business, so they're going to want to keep theirs high. I mean, if you export oil, you're probably going to want to be a member because, maybe not, but if you lower the prices, they're not going to be happy because people are going to buy from the cheapest, right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's a big, tumbling effect. Okay. So that's kind of how they make their money. But they also have other resources there. What are some other resources that can be found in Venezuela? Brandon?
There's coal.
There's coal, which is good for energy also. Alexis? What? Gold. Yeah, they can find little gold, even though we said the Spanish left, but there's some there. Anything else? There's iron there, which is good for making steel. And the rivers. The Orinoco River is good for producing hydroelectricity. Before we move on to the government, why don't we talk about the central, where the government would be located, their capital. What's the capital of Venezuela, Carson? Caracas. So we're going to talk about the government up to the early 2000s. Okay, so we said they gained their independence in 1821 and officially in 1830. So between that period and probably the 1950s, what type of a government were they going through? What type of a government did they have? Brandon?
There was a dictatorship.
Yeah, and specifically military dictatorship. So the military leaders were ruling the country, and it was a dictatorship. And we said dictatorship is basically a form of government in which the leader controls everything, every aspect of government. So it's not the most favorite type of government. But if you live in that type of government and never have known anything different, it's hard to say that it's wrong. But eventually people start to realize it's wrong, and they don't like it, and they try to overthrow things and change things. And finally, in 1959, what changed? Brandon?
Venezuela elected their first president.
They elected their first president. Okay, so that means they got to help choose their leader. Now, just because they got to help choose their leader does not make it a great government. Because it still wasn't. It was still corrupt, where the leaders would keep the money from the oil production and not distribute it to help the country, or they didn't care about the rest of the country that was in poverty. They didn't try to improve things for anyone else. They didn't try to improve the fact that people were hungry and that their education was low. They didn't care because they were the leader, and they kept money and stuff like that. So it was still corrupt government. Their economy was poor. So still bad. Then in 1999, well, the same guy wasn't president from 59 to 99, but in 1999 they did get another president, and they don't say that in the book that he was elected in 1999, but he was. But he's the president they're talking about in the 2000s, and who is this man? Ryan? Hugo Chavez. Now, I have 2002 there because we're going to be talking about things that happened around that period. But you might want to think about putting that he was elected in 99. Okay, so that was when he was elected president. Okay, when he came in as president in 1999, he started to begin a new set of changes in the country, and he called these changes the Bolivarian Revolution. So, if you hear the word Bolivarian Revolution, who do you think that's named after? Jayton?
Simon Bolivar.
Yes. Brandon? Okay, let's get out. Let me get you the assignment. So, in the Bolivarian Revolution, these changes that he wanted to make. Hold on a second. These changes he wanted to make was to distribute income equally throughout the entire country, to make everybody equal. He wanted to fight against corruption. He pushed for a new constitution, which actually passed. So they had a new constitution, and in that, for the first time ever, it guaranteed every citizen of the country the right to an education, health care, work, and their dignity. So got some things back that they weren't having before. So his big deal is to distribute oil equally. Not oil like, here's a bucket of oil for you. Not that. The income from the oil. So if you need to write that next to there so you get it, do that. All right? Even though you're not writing, you still have to follow along. Okay? All right. No doodling. All right, so he's going to distribute the income from oil equally. So, let's see. Melanie's row, Brandon's row, you guys work in the oil field or in the oil pipelines or some form of industry with the oil. You guys are all farmers and ranchers. All right? Under Chavez's system of government, all the income made from these guys working their butts off all the time is going to be distributed equally to everybody. Okay, what do you think about that, Sammy? You okay with it? You're okay with it? Okay.
No.
How come you're not okay with it?
Because I work my butt off and nobody else does.
They might not necessarily be working hard, or they might be slacking in their farms because they know we're going to get the income from the oil, so it's okay. All right. So as a result, people like Melanie that were upset with it, what did they do? What did they do? Alexis?
Revolt.
They didn't revolt. So not really revolt. Burley?
They went on strike.
They went on strike. And what does it mean to go on strike, Ethan?
When workers form a little group and they won't work until they get their wage.
Yeah, it's when you stop working until you get the demands met that you have. Turn it to 94. All right, they stopped working until their demands were met. They didn't like the fact that they were working and the money was distributed to everyone equally. So they were on strike for a couple months. They were demanding that the president resign, but he refused. And since these workers that worked in the oil field and the pipelines and so on were not working, what happened? Ryan?
Economy suffered and the country's oil exports fell dramatically.
Yeah, the economy suffered because people aren't working. And when people aren't working, they're not able to produce oil, so they're not able to export it, so they're not able to make money. And their economy is hurt by that. Okay? And it suffered dramatically. The oil exports from the country dramatically fell too. All right. So he wouldn't resign. They wanted him to. So what was the next step? What was their next step to try to fix things and what they, Brandon?
Many Venezuelans opposed to President Chavez and called for a referendum.
They called for a referendum, and a referendum is a revote. So they wanted to vote to see if they would kick him out of office. So they needed to revote to decide if they wanted him to be the president. So they did this in 2004. They voted. Everyone went to the polls and voted. Okay, and 58% of the people voted for Chavez, which leaves 42%, said they want to kick him out. So he won, so he stays. But if you look at the breakdown of percentages, still a lot of people unhappy with the government, and most likely some of the people within this 58% either have no idea what's going on or are just too scared to change. Okay? So, but if you're the president and people have been wanting you to resign, they called for this revote to try to get you kicked out, you've got to figure out, I'm not doing everything the right way. So he decided to adopt some new policies for some change, and he adopted policies specifically on poverty, hunger, literacy, those types of things. He wanted to end poverty and end hunger in the country. He wanted to help the literacy rate, so that's education. But now, with what we have here, this is kind of still in the 2000s. We're going to put, you don't have to write this, but I'm going to write it to tell you, to be continued. Because when we do our project for Chapter 4, there will be a group that's going to be focusing on, we're not done with notes, there's going to be a group that's going to be focusing on the most recent part of this government, and they're going to tell us how's it been going with this. All right? So that is why I didn't go all the way through to most recently. I want that group, whoever gets it, to be doing that, and then they will teach us that. Okay? So that's government. All right, no more Venezuela. Moving on to the Guianas. You need to make yourself a little chart here. Guyana, Suriname, and French Guiana, probably about 4 lines deep or something like that. And what you're going to do using each section of the reading there on 94 and 95 is come up with 3 or 4 facts about each country. Could be the capital, could be the diversity of the population, like where the people descended from, resources, those types of things. So I'm going to give you a little bit of time to use that part of the book, come up with 3 or 4 facts for each country, okay, and then we'll come back and discuss them. Let's start with Guyana. Let's start with the capital of Guyana. What is the capital of Guyana? GJ? Georgetown. Georgetown is the capital. So you're going to want to know that because on your test you will need to, which we are having a test next Wednesday. Georgetown's the capital, and a lot of the people there work in agriculture. So what are a couple of the crops that they said that they do grow here? Carson?
Rice and sugar.
Rice and sugar, so those are some big resources for them. Those are their major crops. Okay. And of all your people here, you probably noticed it's a big difference than what you saw in Venezuela. What's the population? Where are people descended from? Shaden?
India.
Okay, they've got people of India descent. Where else? Brandon?
African.
Yeah, African descent. Now, if we were to say the type of, looking at all the types, different people of descent, different descents there, what's a word we could use for the type of population that the people descended from, Laura?
Diverse.
It's very diverse. People from all over Europe there, so it's a diverse population. Very diverse. Okay. Move over to Suriname, which is very, very right next door, so very probably similar types of land. What's the capital of Suriname? Sammy?
Paramaribo.
Yep. I better rewrite that. Or just. My eraser hasn't been working. It's really weird. Every time I try to use the eraser, it like does that. But now it works. What the heck? Can you see it?
Now I see mine.
You think it'll
It's
pop
gonna-
up? Oh yeah. Paramaribo is the capital. And what did they say about resources that you can find in Suriname? What about the resources, Laura?
They're the same as Guyana.
Yep, similar resources as Guyana. I'm putting an arrow, make it easier. Okay. And what about their people being, where are they descended from? Melanie?
South Asian.
You got a lot of Southeastern Asia. Hannah? Africans, Ryan?
Chinese.
Chinese?
Asian.
Good. Very diverse population here, too. Diverse population here. Yes.
Why did there like so many people from Southeast Asia there?
Why did the Southeast Asia? Did anyone find it? Did it say in there? I didn't know if it did. No, a lot of them came over to work in the sugar plantations, kind of similar to why they came over to Guyana. A lot of them they immigrated over just to work in the sugar plantations.
Didn't they come to America too, United States later?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that would be probably to get a better, free life because, especially after independence, we got a lot more immigrants. And then French Guiana, a little different because they aren't an independent country; they are a territory. And who controls them? French Guiana, Taylor.
France.
Yeah, they are a territory of France.
England.
But even though they're a territory of France, they do have their own capital city. What's the capital city of? Did you get this stuff down? You have to get this stuff down. Okay. What's the capital city? It wasn't in the reading, but the other day when we did a mapping thing, it was. It's also on a map. Anyone know, Holmes?
Cayenne.
Yep. Cayenne. And then a little bit different as far as population, but kind of similar. What's the population here? Dawson?
Roughly 200,000 people.
Oh, yeah. A lot of 200,000 people. What about where they're descended from, Sammy?
Africa.
2/3 of the population is of African descent. But still diverse with the rest of it. French Guiana, if you look on the map here, it's a very small country. And the problem here is they don't have very many resources, and that would be one reason they don't want their independence, because they don't have resources, and you need resources to survive on your own. And there's two major things that they have to rely on coming from other countries. What are those, Ryan?
Food and energy.
Food and energy. Are those pretty big aspects of our life? I would say so. Okay. So they rely heavily on imports for their food and their energy. Okay. Any question on Venezuela and the Guianas? Yes, Shane.
Why did France ever go there if there's no resources?
Well, they were over in the area, the Caribbean, and it was there. No one settling there to settle it there. I guess it's just like why Spain came over here, and they just never let it go. For the most part, French Guiana is probably very self-governing themselves. Just France is there for them. We will be having a quiz over this stuff on Monday. Okay? But I have a writing assignment. Well, it's not a writing assignment. It's kind of a chart that I want you to do.
That book is always ready.
And the chart here is what you're going to do is you're going to make a chart just like that. And you're going to list the effects of oil production on the three different things. So the effect of oil production on people, the effect of oil production on the economy, the effect of oil production on the government. This is an assignment you will turn in, so just draw yourself a chart on a piece of paper. You must have at least 3 facts for each, so you must have at least 3 in each column. Okay, so you can draw that out, can't you? I think so. Any questions on the assignment? Yeah,
Do we do it on our journal?
you're turning it in.